But it's interesting how when a conversation is about Islam, we focus on that 5% instead of the 95% of what Islam is about.
Do you believe that it's inherently immoral for an apostate to be put to death?
Well, I know this is some kind of trap.
No,
I'm
just looking for honesty on your part, that's all.
Do you believe I should be put to death?
Yo, how's it going, people? It's your boy Veedu Vidz in the house once again. I hope everyone is doing well. Boy, it's been a very long time since I've spoken to everyone here. I've missed you all very dearly and I miss making videos. And I thought, you know what? Let's give the people what they want. And what they want is me, an ex-Muslim, reacting to a very interesting conversation and debate between two Christians and two Muslims. What was more interesting was that they were discussing apostasy and blasphemy, something which is very close to my heart, something that I've spoken about a lot on this channel. So I thought, man, this is going to be a clash. So let's see what they have to say.
What is your biggest challenge and differences with the religion of Islam?
Well, you know, probably the main thing is the sanctification of violence and the idea that God will bless and even calls upon the believers to commit acts of violence under certain circumstances. Like Rashid here is an ex-Muslim, and so under Islamic law, as it's traditionally and classically formulated, he would be put to death. Muhammad said, anybody who changes his religion, kill him. And it's still the position of all of the schools of Islamic jurisprudence, Sunni and Shia, that the apostate should be put to death. Now, obviously, this is not something that means that every apostate has to always go around watching himself, because you have to have somebody who's willing to do that. But those who do it, they think, well, now I have done something that Allah has commanded, and He will bless me for doing it. And me, myself, because I was standing up for the freedom of speech, 2015, Pamela Geller and I put on in Texas a Muhammad art exhibit and cartoon contest. And it was actually, we featured a lot of classic Shiite Persian art depicting Muhammad, as well as contemporary art that was from a more critical standpoint. And a couple of jihadis came from Phoenix, key members, actually, of the Islamic Community Center of Phoenix. One of them was featured in a recruitment video for them, and they tried to kill us. And so I actually would be also under a death sentence just for drawing Muhammad and for sponsoring people who do, which I did not in order to cause gratuitous insult, but to defend the freedom of speech and freedom of expression, which is the foundation of any genuinely free society.
Daniel, what would you say to that? What's your response to that?
Yeah, so just a few points here. Number one, it's interesting how we want to talk about Islam as a religion, but the religion is 95% like what Jake mentioned. It's about worshiping God, being devoted to a righteous way of life, loving your neighbors, taking care of your parents. That's what 95% of Islam is about. Yes, there are criminal punishments, which we're going to discuss. There is conquest, there is war theory, there's all of this in Islam. But it's interesting how when a conversation is about Islam, we focus on that 5% instead of the 95% of what Islam is about. We don't see this kind of double standard with like Christians. So if you have someone like Matt Walsh is a traditional Christian. There's slavery in the Bible, there's punishment for blasphemers in the Bible, there's killing of heretics in the church tradition. There's no discussion of that with Matt Walsh, right? Or Ben Shapiro. There is killing of blasphemers in the Hebrew Bible. There is, punishments for apostasy in the Talmud. There's no discussion of that with Ben Shapiro. You can talk about, other values, and that's what the discussion focuses on. But the Islamophobic narrative is just lasering in on these specific topics, which is fine. We can discuss that, but I just want to note the double standard.
I can't believe I'm going to say this. Wallahi, I can't. I'm going to partly agree with Brother Daniel here. Yeah, there is a lot of blasphemy, apostasy laws, a very quite brutal text within the Old Testament. And I really get annoyed, honestly I get annoyed, when I hear people like Jordan Peterson, Ben Shapiro, Matt Walsh, and all these other Daily Wire guys who are like, the freedoms of the West are built upon Judeo-Christian values. These are Judeo-Christian values. Not really. When Europe was its most religious, when Europe was its most Christian, we had far less freedom. We didn't really have this concept of freedom of speech and the individual, the way it is instantiated now, the way that we protect it now. These freedoms do not exist even for the average citizen. If you're a woman or a gay, you're a dissenter, you are a scientist, you're questioning the status quo, life could be very, very hard for you. There are several examples in history of people being punished for saying the wrong thing or believing the wrong thing. So I don't buy this whole Judeo-Christian values, Ben Shapiro, Jordan Peterson, the West is built upon this kind of stuff. I personally do not believe that is the case. However, for whatever reason, and there's a whole history behind this, Christianity has been defanged and been tamed, and Europe has become secular. Therefore, we don't have this need to go to Ben Shapiro or Jordan Peterson and say, why do you believe in the blasphemy law? Because they don't. No real Christian, I don't think so, in any serious way, would defend or propose the blasphemy law where someone is put to death or imprisoned, or an apostasy law where if someone leaves Christianity, they're going to be punished. They don't believe these things. That's why no one goes and asks them. So Daniel, half correct, but half not true. I think the other half is just simple whataboutery. Well, what about those guys and what about those guys? Focus on yourself, mate. Focus on your own religion and your own values. No Christian proposes this, which is why we don't really ask them about it now. And this whole idea around 95% of Islam is praying, fasting, taking care of poor people, taking care of your parents, being good to your neighbor, all this kind of stuff. I would, again, 95% is just a number. It could be 90% or whatever. I'll give you that. Wallah adim. Daniel, I'll agree with you again, brother. I'll agree with you and say, yeah, 90% of Islam, in fact, 90% of most religions are just kind of like, ritualistic, praying, fasting, taking care of yourself, not eating certain things, and so on and so forth. So when you say, oh, why do you focus on the 5%? Well, let me give you an example. Would you go and hug a grizzly bear? You say, no, probably not. Why? Because it's got very sharp teeth and it's got big claws, and if I get anywhere near it, it's going to murder me, it's going to kill me, tear me to pieces. But if I say, yeah, but 95% of the grizzly bear is just nice, cuddly, fluffy, furry, big and warm, you can give it nice cuddles. Yeah, the 5% are teeth and claws, but 95% of it is just nice and fluffy and cuddly, right? But you would say, yeah, but what about the teeth? What about the teeth? And that is the point. Even if a lot of your religion contains praying, fasting, whatever, anyone with a brain would be concerned about the teeth of every ideology, the teeth of every religion. So if your religion says anyone who publicly blasphemes or apostatizes from this religion, they could be killed or imprisoned, I think it's quite a rational thing to start questioning that religion. It's not Islamophobic, Daniel, okay? It's not Islamophobic to say, if I go against your religion, what are you going to do to me? And if what you're going to do to me is kill me and, behead me and chuck me off a roof and whatnot, then I suppose I should be very wary of that religion. So I don't agree with this whole 95%, 5% kind of stuff. You always judge an ideology based upon how it treats its minorities, its downtrodden, how it treats people that disagree with it, right? That's how you test how coherent and how just this ideology is. So if you're telling me, if I disagree with you and leave your religion, you're going to kill me, then naturally I'm going to be very skeptical on whether this religion is just.
Yeah, so I would ask Robert a very simple question that I think gets at what the real issue actually is. Do you believe that it's inherently immoral for an apostate to be put to death?
Do I believe that it's inherently immoral for an apostate to be put to death? Is it inherently immoral? Well, I know this is some kind of trap, but in any case, I don't see any reason. I'm just looking for honesty
on your part, that's all.
You can always have honesty on my part. Everything I tell you is the truth.
Allah.
And the fact is that, I don't know. I tell you the truth. I haven't thought about it.
Okay, you haven't thought about it. Well, you're writing all of these books on Islam talking about
criticizing
apostasy,
Islam?
Right.
And you don't even know if this is inherently immoral.
That's a fair
quite
point.
shocking, Robert.
I would say that I don't think that it's moral to put the apostate to death.
So it's immoral.
As it comes to my books about Islam, I'm just reporting on what Islamic clerics and the Islamic tradition teaches about passages like when Muhammad says, if somebody changes his religion, kill him. So if you look, for example, in chapter 4, verse 89 of the Quran, in the critical Quran, where it says, if they turn renegade, then come and kill them wherever you find them, then I give Islamic authorities who actually say that this should be done. And that is something people need to know. Now, whether you're talking about in the ideal society, you have apostates put to death, I don't think so, because I believe in the freedom of
Bismillah.
conscience and the idea that of the dignity of the human person, which is a Christian concept that's not in Islam. You have in Islam, the unbelievers are the most vile of created beings, according to chapter 98, verse 6.
One issue at a time.
So on. No, this is all.
I still
let's
didn't
talk
get an
about
answer
this
if
issue.
it's-
I understand, but this
inherently
is all the
immoral?
same issue. Whereas in
Is it
Christianity,
inherently immoral?
all people are equal in dignity as made in the
Allah.
image of God. And so in that sense, I would say, no, I don't think it is.
So is it inherently immoral, yes or no?
Can I answer that?
It is.
It is.
So when Deuteronomy, since you like to quote the Quran, when the Bible says this in Deuteronomy 13:6, if your brother, the son of your mother, your son of your daughter, the wife of your bosom, or your friend, who as your own soul secretly entices you, saying, quote, let us go and serve other gods, which you have not known, neither you nor your fathers, of the gods of the people which are all around you, near to you or far from you, from one end of the earth to the other end of the earth, you shall not consent to him or listen to him, nor shall your eye pity him, nor shall you spare him or conceal him, but you shall surely
my God.
kill him. Your hand shall be first against him to put him to death, and afterward the hand of all the people. And you shall stone him
my
with
God.
stones until he dies, because he sought to entice you away from the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt from the house of bondage. So all Israel shall hear and fear, and not again do such wickedness as this among you. So
Yes.
let me finish. Let me
I
comment
get
on
your
the
point.
passage. So when your
Love.
loving God, Jesus Christ, who you believe is God, who revealed the Old Testament and revealed this as a law for the people, and you said that it's inherently immoral for the punishment of apostasy
Allah.
to be death, then you are charging your own God and supposedly loving Jesus with immorality,
Not
sir.
at all.
If you don't see that contradiction and hypocrisy,
It's not
then
in
we
the
can't
least.
really do much for you.
Well, it's not in the least contradictory or hypocritical, because that is God actually ordering something
Was
directly.
God wrong for that?
Now, the question here is whether the Muslims, when they put people to death for apostasy today, are likewise authorized by God in some direct manner. Now,
Oh, so that's
obviously,
what matters.
yes, the question is...
And it's not inherently immoral. It just matters what is the correct religion and whether or not
Well, see-
God is actually revealing
Good
it.
point.
Yeah, if you study the
Good
Old
point, brother.
Testament, you will actually find that there's a great deal of discussion about passages like that and whether they are actually commands by God, whether they were understood by the faithful, interpretations by the faithful. The evolving understanding in the Old Testament and the New, and in Jewish and Christian tradition, is something that unfortunately is absent in Islam, such that in Jewish and Christian tradition you have the understanding of the dignity of the human person that ultimately made people realize that putting people to death for apostasy
Well,
was
thank God
not
for that.
something that was acceptable. But the idea that it was a localized command at some point or understood to be such, that is not the same thing as people nowadays thinking they are the executors
Allah.
of the wrath of Allah.
See, I'll be honest with you, this part of the video I found the most frustrating. I'll tell you why. When you see two, whether it's Muslims or Christians, debating each other on what the text says, is it okay to kill an apostate? Well, it depends on the time, it depends on when it's done. Is it before Jesus? Is it after Jesus? So you guys are debating whether or not it's okay to kill someone like me based upon your texts, which are 1,400 years old, 2,000 years old, or 3,000 years old. And I'm just sitting here watching, and I'm hoping and praying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or Yahweh or whoever, Jesus, I'm hoping that you guys happen to land upon the interpretation where you say, actually, we probably shouldn't kill apostates. That I found the most frustrating. And I just want to say, listen, guys, you can have your books, you can pray, you can fast, you can do what you want, but can we draw a line and say, can you not kill us if we change our mind, please? Okay, that part is incredibly frustrating. And this is the problem when you start discussing theology, even with well-intentioned people, right? Even if you are even if you don't agree with the apostasy law or a blasphemy law, once you start debating theology and you go down that rabbit hole, you can make any verse look into anything. Okay, so in Robert's mind, the verse that, Jake read, which is bloody savage. It's crazy that verse, all right? On the surface, you can say, oh, well, we've been having discussions and, we've come to the conclusion that maybe it's not. What if the conversation hadn't gone that way? What if it gone the other way and said, no, actually, yeah, we should be doing this? And I know Christians are going to say, yeah, but Jesus stopped that. Well, what was he doing in the first place in the Old Testament? I mean, he must have had a really bad day when he commanded that verse. And then he came back and said, okay, guys, scrap it. All right. It wasn't my best work. Okay, we're going to start all over again.
Do you believe I should be put to death?
I believe that the punishment for apostasy in a correct Islamic state is death. I believe that that's the correct. Let me finish. Let me just respond, sir. I believe that that is the correct punishment, which has been revealed by God, both in the Quran and the Bible. And for Robert to turn around,
I asked you.
Let me finish.
I asked you, do you believe I should be killed today?
And I answered you, sir.
Yes or no?
I answered you.
Yes or no?
I answered you.
I think it's a yes, mate. I think it's a yes.
Yeah, you answered me.
In a proper Islamic jurisdiction, an Islamic nation, all of the laws of Islam and the Sharia, as revealed by God, should be applied.
So if we were in that kind of state, would you do it?
Including
I'm not the one that
with proper due process, with a proper court hearing, just like any nation of laws. The laws of the Sharia should be applied, including the death penalty for not only apostates, but also blasphemers.
You didn't answer me, yes or no?
We did answer.
Yes, we did answer.
Yeah, so I should be killed.
We did answer.
I deserve to be killed because I left Islam and became a Christian.
According to Islamic law, an apostate like you would be killed. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And according to the Bible
let me. This is a fallacy. This is a fallacy.
Robert,
too cocky. Like you want to say you have it too. It's a fallacy.
No.
Let us discuss this because
why is it a fallacy?
It's a fallacy. Let me finish.
Please condemn Jesus.
Yeah.
Please.
Oh, you think you
condemn
should?
Jesus?
Robert
already condemned him. So
No, you're lying.
Let me finish.
On record saying you're lying.
Typical
about that.
religious debate, that is.
You said eventually we realized
you're lying.
Just let me finish.
Let's hear Brother Rashid, and then I'll come to you. Go for it.
You converted from Christianity to Islam. Your life is not under threat here in the U.S. I converted from Islam to Christianity. My life is under death. That's the difference between Christianity and Islam.
Okay, so let me ask you this.
Yeah.
You know what? Putting aside all the theology and all the history and all the debating in verses and so on and so forth, the fact is, what Brother Rashid here has said is the most important point. The irony is that Jake himself is an apostate, right? He has left Christianity and converted to Islam. So, should he be put to death? I mean, if he's such a strong advocate for this apostasy law, if America or Europe was following such a law, he himself would be put to death. Right? If he was under the same circumstances that he is advocating for, he himself wouldn't be alive today. And this is the hypocrisy that I see amongst many of the people that advocate for such laws, is that when you leave Islam, put him to death, put him in court. What's his name? Daniel. We're not going to kill him without due process. We're going to put him in court. We're going to, as if that makes it any better, right? As if this thing is a crime in the first place. So if I grow up and change my mind on this thing that I was born into, I'm now a criminal? I'm deserving of death? But putting all that aside, I'm happy that Christians and Jews don't advocate for an apostasy law or blasphemy law. I'm happy they don't. Whatever problems they have in their books, that's for them to sort out. But as long as they don't advocate for this, I'm cool with that. And this is the hypocrisy that is quite clear in Jake's case. He's a convert. He enjoys the protection given to him by the West. No one's going to come after him. No Christian or Jew is going to be like, we need to kill this guy because he converted. No one cares. That's your personal business. But if the shoe was on the other foot, in the case of Brother Rashid, I'm assuming if he was in Morocco or in a Muslim country and his apostasy was public, he would probably have to flee. It would not be safe for him to remain there. Nevertheless, let me know what you guys think. Do you agree with me, or do you agree with Rashid or Robert Spencer or Daniel Hikikachu or Jake? Let me know what you guys think. I'll be interested to hear your opinions in the comment section. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. What are you doing, man? But until next time, take it easy and let's beat bigotry with a smile.